Hey, what's up you guys? I am back with another video and I've changed my setup thing from yesterday. It is on a Canon camera, so the quality may skew with and the audio may skew with as well, so I'm sorry about that. But anyway, let's get on to what the topic of the video is today, and it's a review of Reservoir Dogs, a Quentin Tarantino film in 1992. This film has been said it's a classic, so I thought I'd check it out. I only checked it out a couple of days ago, so I quickly wrote down all the notes I could on the film, and actually it was quite a good film, and it's actually one of my top 20 films I would say now. This film is very much a Quentin Tarantino film. It is a typical mobbuster film with a range of characters all doing a heist. Now you have a bit of blood, guts and gore, but that's what you expect from films from him, especially with like Pulp Fiction being quite bloody as well. But no, you have a range of characters who are on this heist together. Now the heist goes a little bit wrong. They understand that it was all a setup and the police were called already before the actual heist started. Now they've got to find out who the rat is, so the story progresses with them trying to find out who it is. Now you have a range of characters who have different names, but like cover names, so Mr. Brown, Mr. Orange, so on. Now with this, it gets a little bit confusing because you don't really know who's who. It's only until the third act, when you see them getting assigned with their own personal names, that you understand, oh, he was that character. Now the characters you have actually are Quentin Tarantino, Mr. Brown, Michael Madsen playing Mr. Blonde, Tim Roth playing Mr. Orange, Harvey Keitel playing Mr. White, Steve Buscemi playing Mr. Pink, I really can't say their names, Chris Penn playing Nice Guy Eddie, Lawrence Tierney, Joe Cabot. So with these characters you get to see how they progress. Now they don't get much character development because you don't have their actual names, and it's very much in the heat of now what's happening with the rat. Now them trying to find out who the rat is pretty much just in the one room that they're staying in. Now it's first the three characters, Mr. Orange, Mr. Pink and Mr. White. Now Mr. White has helped Mr. Orange and he's dying pretty much, and then Mr. Pink comes and they start talking about Joe. Now Joe is the man behind the scenes pulling all the strings, so he doesn't get his hands all dirty, but he's the one that's making them get their hands dirty. Now they're trying to find out who the rat is, and they don't know if they could trust Joe and see if it was Joe that actually was doing it. Now this is all happening in one building. It's mainly in the one room afterwards, but it's in the toilets for this part where they're trying to talk it through. Now with it just being in one room usually, especially for the second and third act, because in the first act it's not so much in the one room itself, it does seem a little bit claustrophobic, but then you have the flashbacks. Now with the flashbacks, some of them to me seemed a bit, I don't know why they were there, and it's until you actually fully understand the story that you realise why they're there. But then Mr. Orange's flashback I thought was brilliant, how they did that. Now Mr. Orange had this fake story. I won't kind of spoil it a little bit. I try not to, but like if I do, I do, sorry. But no, Mr. Orange has this backstory of how he's a criminal himself, and he makes up this story about him and this weed plot being with policemen in the toilets. So they walk through the story as he's telling it to his friend and as he's telling it to the mob busters. Now I like how he used the camera work in this. There's this one shot where he is in the toilets and he's just walked in knowing that he's got weed on him, there's a dog barking at him, and there's 4 policemen, or 3 policemen, I'm not too sure, standing right in front of him. And then the camera starts spinning and he's talking about how these thoughts are going through his head. What do I do? Do I go away? Do I stay? Do I laugh? Do I talk to them? And you can, with the camera work, it kind of helps you understand that these thoughts are spinning around in his head and he can't think straight. It's not just set in stone what he's doing, it's all whirling around him at this moment of time. And I kind of liked how Quentin Tarantino directed that scene, because I thought it was very clever, because you understood that he didn't know what was happening, as do we. Now there's many scenes that I actually quite enjoyed in this and how they shot it. Now there was one in particular as well, regardless of the Mr. Orange flashback, it was also Mr. Blonde's torture scene pretty much. It was very, very grim, but well thought out, and it was very comedic, even though it's going to be gruesome and gore. But I think the comedic aspect didn't make you kind of squirm at the, oh my god, it's really sort of scary aspect of what was actually happening in that scene. Now the music that they had was actually quite jolly as well. It was like stuck in the middle with you. I can't sing, I won't sing for you, but that kind of music. And I think with his music as well, it kind of fitted in nicely with the scene. And even though he kind of got a part of his body cut off, I won't tell you which bit, but part of his body cut off, and he's getting doused in gasoline, you're kind of in that groove with the man anyway. You don't care about the other bit. You're already like dancing at the music, and he is as well, and I think it's a very fun, quirky scene. Another place that I really quite liked music being placed was when they were walking out the cafe, and you have them walking down and they're all this like quite cool, and then you have like their names pop up, and it's like, yeah, and it kind of gave you that impression that these are cool men. They're walking their stride and they have no fears of what they're about to do. And I think also with the cafe scene as well, I liked how it was kind of casual, and it opened up really weirdly, because you're like, I thought this would be like in the action sort of thing, but it wasn't. It was very much so quite calm and collective, and I kind of think it set the mood for how they were feeling before they went into this like massive fighting heist sort of action. And I think that was quite nice, and you got somewhat of a character development from each different one, but not like a solid, you kind of understand their personalities, because I think Tarantino didn't do that character development because they wouldn't have done that character development. They kept their personal lives private from people, because what if one of them was a rat, which they found out later on that one of them was, and they gave all the details of their name, their location, their family, and then they're busted. Now I would say personally for me, I think the ending, I wasn't satisfied as much as I was, because it was such a quick, fast paced thing. You were looking around, you didn't know what was happening. And I think looking back at it, even though I didn't like it first, I kind of understood why they made it that pace. And I think they did that because right then and there, the men themselves were irrational. They weren't thinking straight. They did something straight away because they had an instinct, and I think they were trying to protect themselves more than anyone else, and they were thinking about themselves in that moment. So they would shoot someone because they don't want them to be the rat. They think that they're rat, and they think they're going to be exposed, so why not kill them, and they can't tell anyone else anything. So I think even though at the start I didn't quite like the pacing of the last act, and I think it was a little bit quick, and I couldn't really sort of process what was happening because it was so irrational, I think it kind of also helped me afterwards understand like what situation these men were in. I do think the acting was superb. You understood like some of the like expressions on people, you understood the panic, you understood like how cool and calm and collective they were. I would say though, Mr. Blonde was my favourite character. Now with him, like with the torture scene that I talked before, with the music and him grooving, it kind of in a way was so funny and so weird that you kind of loved it, and how he did it and how he moved, and you could understand that he was enjoying it, so you enjoyed it. Like you probably didn't enjoy like the torture thing, but you still enjoyed that scene. So that was my review of Quentin Tarantino's film Reservoir Dogs in 1992. It is one of my top 20, I would say now, of my favourite films, and I'm glad I watched it and listened to Screen Junkies to watch it. But I would recommend Quentin Tarantino films. I can never say his name, I am so sorry. Some people have the most hardest names to say. But no, regardless of that, I would recommend his films. I will do a review maybe of Pulp Fiction, because that was probably one of my top 10 films, and I love Samuel L. Jackson in it. And John Travolta actually scared me a bit. I was like, what's happened? Because he was such like a lovely boy in Grease, and now he's a hardcore killing F-bomb machine pretty much. So if you want to see more reviews like this, or if you want some of my personal favourite films, like listing them, ranking them, or just talking about them, then leave a comment down below telling me what kind of films, or what films you want me to watch and then talk about. That would be really cool. So hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscribe, and see you soon. Bye!